suppose a sensible place to start is at the beginning. And if I was sensible, I'd start off by telling you about Martin, who at over 60 years old worked as a freelancer, evicting drug lords from Hillbrow with his roundhouse kicks. Or so he claimed. He was the first of many characters that I'd meet in my journey. But I'm not going to start at the beginning. I'm going to start somewhere around the middle. And you may think that a strange thing to do, and that's fine. I got quite used to people thinking that I'm strange and standing with their hands on their hips and scratching their heads and trying to figure me out. My story tonight begins just south of St. Lucia in Zululand. Zululand's a pretty wild place, and it was there that a pretty wild thing happened. Two men armed with a knife and a machete emerged from the Casuarina forest in an attempt on my possessions and on my life. When the attempt on my life failed, they returned to my backpack, which I had abandoned in the retreat. As they rummaged through my small backpack, I realized how few things I had come to depend on. So few, in fact, that the thought of losing them entirely and pursuing an animal existence didn't really faze me at all. Shortly after, I was filled with a pretty cool sense of freedom with that thought. It wasn't always that way, though. I started my journey pulling a cart. The cart alone weighed 45 kilograms and had 200 liters of storage capacity. I filled it with good food, good books, I strapped my guitar to the top, and yep, even had a kitchen sink. The cart was modeled after others like it, built for similar purposes. It was designed and built by two friends of mine, Greg Borman, a structural engineer, and Charles Pfeiffer, a key grip. The result was a sturdy and efficient construction, whose only mechanical fault was the dodgy store-bought mountain bike wheels. Because of the wobbly wheels, I named the cart Olive, after Popeye's wobbly-legged girlfriend. Together we made good progress over good roads, which was what she was designed for. At night I'd pull off into the bush or under a bridge to find a safe place to sleep, and entertain myself with a guitar or one of the many books I was able to carry. There was one major limitation with pulling a cart. If I couldn't find an open gate or a gap in a fence, I couldn't find a safe place to sleep. And often I found myself sleeping right next to the road, which wasn't a very good place. Initially I was grateful to the cart for allowing me to carry all my comforts. In the end I was grateful for an entirely different reason. Being limited by Olive's dimension helped me realize the extent to which our country is cut up by barbed wire fences. They're seldomly necessary and often a symptom of greed and of fear. I was often amused at the lengths to which people would go to mark their territory, but mostly annoyed that my quest for freedom had found so many obstacles. So I decided to simplify. And simplify I did. I gave away most of the cart's contents and left it in the Kalahari with someone I befriended. I ditched my comfy and self-inflating mattress, most of my books, my guitar, ditched my tent, I even ditched the kitchen sink. I continued my journey with a 38-liter backpack and what little equipment I could fit into it. I fashioned an alcohol stove out of a tin can, stocked up on pap, and prepared myself for a life of suffering. But what I found wasn't a life of suffering at all. What I found was one of the greatest learning experiences of my journey. As often happens in life, I'd become attached to things that were holding me back. In an effort to satisfy my want for comfort, I'd sacrificed my need for freedom. That realization has led me, since the completion of my journey, to make far more effective decisions in my life, based on a radically different value system. Once I'd made the choice to value a sense of freedom over the want for material goods, the only limitations that I was faced with were those of nature and those that I chose to impose on myself. Suddenly a whole new world was opened up to me. I continued my journey with a renewed vigor and a renewed sense of freedom. When I was pulling my cart, I struggled to interact with people, mostly I think because people couldn't really relate to me pulling this cart. With the backpack though, I more closely resembled a normal human being, and my interactions with people became far more personal. I was able to learn a great deal about South Africa and its people this way. I was able to pass through towns and go shopping without causing much of a scene. Though occasionally I must admit, the urge to cause a scene did strike, and I found myself in a fancy coffee shop after not showering for a week, just for kicks. Through simplification, a wider range of choice was available to me. Choice, which we as human beings often forget, is a luxury. Albert Camus once wrote, "Life is a sum of all your choices." People would meet me along my way and say, "I wish I could do what you're doing, but I've got a full-time job and I've got a car to pay off." And I would say, "You can do what I'm doing and much more. Just got to quit your job and ditch your car." Admittedly, ditching my follower was pretty easy. Still had to quit my job though and make other sacrifices. And if you don't want to leave your life behind, then that's great. It means that there are elements in your life that you value enough to hold on to. That's one of the reasons that I made my trip a local one. It meant that I could stay in touch and meet up with the people that I value in life. So if you know what your value system is, and there are elements in life that you do value, be it your family, your friends, your career, then that's your adventure. And you shouldn't be pressurized by the Marlboro Man or some other adventurous cliche into abandoning them. If you do want to quit your job and get your car though, then you've got to do it. And this is why. I've been given 7 minutes to speak about a 9-month-long journey. That means I could only possibly have imparted 0.001% of my experience onto you. You can listen for all of us speakers speak for hours on end, and you can read 100 adventure books, and you'll still only have a piece of it until you get out there for yourself. If you don't find something that you value and love in life, you're just going to fence yourself in. And don't let silly things like lack of sponsorship or fancy equipment get in the way. They make life easier, but they're by no means essential. So just go out and do it. If you are 25 years or younger though, and you are looking to make your trip a bit easier, a great way of making it easier is with the MCSA Supertramp Award. It's helped me and many of my friends on our adventures, and it can definitely help you on yours. And so I'd like to conclude with thanks to the MCSA, thanks to Lisa for organising this event, thanks to the people who supported me on the trip, and thank you all for coming and listening.